What's something your family does that outsiders find absolutely bizarre? Now I'm kind of regretting posting because some of my friends use Reddit and might recognize this story, but whatever. So I grew up in what I thought was a totally normal household until I started bringing friends over in middle school. We lived in this old Victorian house that my grandparents bought back in the 70s. It's one of those houses with a ton of rooms and weird little nooks and hallways, and my mom always said it had character, which I guess is code for the floors creak and nothing is level. Anyway, the bizarre thing my family does isn't something I even realized was weird until my friend Loretta pointed it out in 7th grade. Basically, my entire family, parents, grandparents, my older brother, we all have this thing where we have to knock on wood whenever someone mentions something good happening. But like, not just casual knocking. We have this whole ritual about it. First, it has to be real wood, not that fake laminate stuff. Second, it has to be 3 distinct knocks followed by what my grandma calls a blessing tap, which is this weird little double tap at the end. And third, and this is the part that apparently makes us complete freaks, if there's no wood around, we have to knock on each other's heads. I didn't realize how bizarre this was until Loretta stayed over for the first time and my mom said something about how she hoped the weather would be nice for our planned bike ride tomorrow. Then she immediately looked around, couldn't find wood, grabbed my dad's head and did the whole knock sequence on his skull. My dad didn't even react, just kept eating his mashed potatoes. Loretta stared at us like we had just performed some kind of alien ritual, and I was so confused about why she was weirded out. When I asked her what was wrong, she was like, "Did your mom just knock on your dad's head?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's no wood nearby," as if that was the obvious explanation. The thing is, this happens all the time in my family. We're constantly interrupting conversations to knock on each other's heads. My brother once literally dove across a room to knock on my grandpa's head after saying he thought he'd do well on his SATs. In high school, it got worse because OBV, I was trying to seem normal and cool. I had this crush on Kane who was like the hottest guy in our grade. When he finally asked me out sophomore year, I was dying. But then on our first date, he mentioned something about the movie we were seeing probably being good, and I automatically reached over and knocked on his head, not even thinking about it. The horror. He just stared at me, and I wanted to die right there. I tried to explain the whole family superstition thing, but the damage was done. He still went out with me a few more times, but I could tell he thought I was weird AF, and eventually he ghosted me. After that, I tried so hard to break the habit. But it's like, ingrained in my DNA or something. In college, I got better at hiding it. I'd wear wooden bracelets or carry a small wooden trinket in my pocket just so I always had wood to knock on. My roommates still thought it was strange, but at least I wasn't knocking on their heads. The absolute worst incident happened last year at my cousin's wedding. I was a bridesmaid and had been seeing this guy Eduardo for about 3 months. Things were getting serious and I really liked him. I invited him to the wedding as my +1, but I was nervous about introducing him to my whole bizarre family. I gave him a heads up about the knocking thing, and he laughed and thought it was cute. But I don't think he realized the extent of it. During the reception, my grandmother stood up to give a toast. She started talking about how she was sure the couple would have a beautiful life together, and then immediately looked around in panic because she hadn't knocked on wood. The nearest person was Eduardo. Before I could stop her, my 87-year-old grandmother grabbed Eduardo's head with both hands and performed the most aggressive wood-knocking ritual I've ever seen, complete with the blessing taps. The entire wedding went silent. Eduardo was frozen in shock. My cousin's new in-laws were horrified. Eduardo was super nice about it afterward, but things were never the same. We broke up 2 weeks later. He said it wasn't about my family, but I knew the truth. The wood knocking had claimed another victim. My brother moved to Seattle and says he's recovered from the habit. But I saw him at Christmas and he definitely knocked on the coffee table when he mentioned his promotion. I've tried to talk to my parents about why we do this, but they just say it's been a family tradition for generations. My grandma swears that her great-grandmother once failed to knock on wood after mentioning her husband's safe job at the factory, and he died in an accident the next day. So now we're all paranoid as hell. I've gotten better at hiding it in public, but I still can't break the habit. Last week I was in a meeting at work and my boss mentioned our team would probably hit our quarterly goals. I had to excuse myself to go find a document so I could knock on the wooden bookshelf in the hallway.